Hi everyone, my name is Fanisa Urba, and today I would like to present a news article entitled IMF warns Venezuela's economy and humanitarian situation is quite fragile. The International Monetary Fund, or IMF, has described Venezuela's economic and humanitarian situation as quite fragile, pointing to an estimated triple-digit inflation and a sharply depreciating currency. In a briefing on Thursday with reporters, spokeswoman Julie Kozak said the organization continues to closely monitor developments in the South American nation, even though the IMF has had no formal relation with the Venezuelan government since 2019. Kozak emphasized that any decision to re-engage would depend on guidance from the IMF's member countries and the broader international community. Economic and political crises in Venezuela have driven massive emigration. Since 2014, roughly a quarter of Venezuela's population, about 8 million people, has left the country, creating one of the largest displacement crises in recent history. The Venezuelan economy in 2026 remains in a state of deep structural crisis. It is currently navigating a period of unprecedented volatility and rapid policy shifts following years of hyperinflation and a contraction of its gross domestic product, or GDP. The United States military's abduction of former President Nicolas Maduro last month has triggered a seismic shift in both the political and economic landscape. While Maduro remains in U.S. custody facing narco-trafficking charges, the acting administration under interim President Delcy Rodriguez has moved swiftly to implement a plan for stabilization, recovery, and transition. Venezuela is undergoing a sharp and prolonged economic and humanitarian crisis, Cossack said during Thursday's briefing. Socioeconomic conditions remain very difficult, poverty is high, inequality is high, and there's widespread shortages of basic service. The situation overall is quite fragile. The IMF figures show Venezuela's public debt sitting at roughly 118% of the GDP right now, before factoring in any court rulings or arbitration payout from all defaults. Kazakh said the global lender was still gathering information and facts on the best way to proceed with the South American country. The IMF has not had any formal dealings with Venezuela in more than 20 years. Its last official assessment of the country came in 2004. In 2007, Venezuela paid off its last World Bank loan under Maduro's predecessor, the late Hugo Chavez. If the IMF restores ties with Venezuela, the South American oil exporter would have access to about $4.9 billion worth of special drawing rights, or CDRs, that were frozen 7 years ago, after the IMF refused to recognize Maduro's leadership. SDRs are reserve assets whose values are tied to five currencies: the US dollars, the euro, the Chinese renminbi, the Japanese yen, and the British pound sterling. But US engagement in Venezuela could also create change in the country's economy. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said last month that the administration of President Donald Trump would be willing to convert Venezuela SDRs to dollars to help rebuild the country's economy. And last week, the U.S. Department of the Treasury announced it was easing some sanctions on Venezuela's energy sector. The Trump administration has placed a heavy focus on Venezuela's vast oil reserves, even going so far as to claim that the natural resources rightfully belong to the U.S. Citing U.S. oil exploration in the area in the 20th century, Trump has called Venezuela's decision to nationalize the oil sector the largest theft of property in the history of the U.S. His government has encouraged foreign investment in Venezuela's oil sector since Maduro's removal. It has also issued two general licenses, including one that allows energy companies Chevron, BP, Eni, Shell, and Repsol to conduct further oil and gas operations in Venezuela. Those companies already have office in the country and are among the main partners of the state-run oil company PDVSA. The second license the second license allows foreign companies to enter new oil and gas investment contracts with PDVSA. In conclusion, the article showed that Venezuela's economic and humanitarian situation is still very fragile and needs serious attention from the international community. And that's all from me. Thank you for your attention and see you next time.